I checked out the Marathon closed beta, which went live 3 a.m. this morning. And so I jumped in and played a few rounds of this. Marathon, as we mentioned last week, is the next big game from Bungie. It's the latest in a pretty crowded genre of extraction shooters. The game is you select a synthetic runner, you're dropped into this very stylish sci-fi world, and it draws lightly from Bungie's old IP, that 90s Marathon game. And yeah, the closed alpha just went live, so I've played about 4 rounds or 4 drop-in, drop-out extractions. There's a couple of reasons that I'm actually really excited and why I think this game's really going to appeal to me when it comes out officially. Firstly, I think we can all agree that Bungie just nail shooters. They know how to make a shooter feel incredible, and I'll touch on that in a sec. So it's just a lovely, lovely shooter. But the second reason is that I'm actually still really yet to crack into an extraction shooter and find the one that is my extraction shooter. I've played DMZ in COD a little bit. That was okay, but I've never played Hunt Showdown. I've never played Escape from Tarkov. Those games both frighten me. Hunt Showdown for the monsters, Tarkov because of the UI and the amount of items you can pick up. And I reckon Marathon could be slick enough that it's kind of my go-to game and it becomes my extraction shooter. Dare I say I might even go pro.
Go pro.
Totally. So the things I really like about this, the shooting, as I mentioned, is fantastic. It feels so good. There's a very much a distinctiveness to how Bungie handle their gunplay. It's weighty. It packs a punch. It feels highly tuned. There's almost like a kind of dance to how gunfights happen in their games, from Halo to Destiny to this as well. So it feels fantastic to play. And yes, I like sweaty shooters like COD and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like I will always gravitate towards a Bungie-style shooter, particularly as I'm getting older. It feels like it sort of complements my lower ability, by lower reflex
The retirement home
pretty
for
much.
you, man.
So I very much enjoy that, and it feels really nice. It's also the style, which everyone can just read as they see this footage. The game has 2 currently small to medium maps that you can play and do an extraction in. At the moment, they're both very pretty. And they're both quite surprising as well in the way that you explore them. They're all full of these futuristic, minimal facilities, abandoned warehouses. It all looks quite haunting in a cool, stylish way. You're grabbing loot as you run through them all. You're avoiding patrolling AI. There's a lot of that in the PvP sense, but you're also avoiding PvE as other players are running around. PV enemy, yes. So there'll be those guys running around at the same time. And yeah, it just feels like wonderful to be in this space, which is in one sense futuristic, and in another it's kind of beautiful and organic, and there are these like swamps and storms and things that roll in, so it feels really nice to be in. Yeah, as I mentioned, you run around and see patrolling soldiers, but you'll also run into humans. I only saw a couple running around in my runs. I was doing autofill, which meant that I had 2 teammates, so you do squads of 3, and we occasionally came across a like solo player, and we absolutely wiped them because there were more of us. So my 3 runs were all flawless runs. They're all fantastic.
Everyone hold for applause. I think you wanted an applause
Thank
there.
you.
There was a wink. There was a wink.
They were all flawless, and it was really fun. It's not perfect. I think the stuff that still needs work and the stuff that I struggled with the most here was the loot system itself, which plays a big part in extraction shooters, and that actually in turn sort of highlights some of the issues I had with the UI. Anyone who's played games like Tarkov and that kind of stuff, I'm sure this stuff is very familiar, and these kind of layouts and the amount of items and icons and things that they need to pass is quite common, but for me, it's kind of still a new process. And I think it struggles, or I struggle, I should say, because there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of icons, there's a lot of symbols, and the game's stylish aesthetic also has a lot of numbers, a lot of symbols, a lot of superfluous just design UI in it for the sake of it looking cool, which does tend to really clutter when you're trying to work out what is something I need to pay attention to and what is something that's just there for like design and style. So that's a little tricky to get my head around, and it's everywhere. And then the other thing that's difficult is that there's so much information to take in through that UI while you're in a map, while someone might be about to ambush you. So, you know, you're looking through menus, trying to work out what's a muzzle attachment and what's a computer chip that'll give you a perk. And you're stressing because there's other people grabbing loot and there's potentially other people about to ambush and kill you. So it's a little stressful. That said, I think maybe this is the closed alpha, the earliest version of the game. I'm sure they will like kind of go hard on sort of tutorializing that as the game comes to full release, and maybe that'll just explain it all and make it a lot easier. That said, I am enjoying kind of the mystery of not understanding this game entirely, and so there's something quite lovely about being in a mysterious world, having mysterious UI, not quite knowing what all my loot does. I'm feeling very naive in this space, and that's a really lovely feeling, and I'm kind of looking forward to learning it all and spending time with it so I actually learn how to go in and do a good run and be good at Marathon, because that's my goal ultimately, to go pro.
This is so deeply not connected to the game that's making me think of, but the way that it uses color to, like, it's very blues on the insides, outside the harsh light. There's a lot of, like, trying to draw your eye to things. It reminds me of Mirror's Edge, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
way
yeah.
that it utilizes color, but it has the same problem Mirror's Edge does. The lighting is so harsh that I find it hard to distinguish what it is I'm looking at, like you were saying, from, like, something that's meant to denote, like, a cover and what is to denote a building look very similar.
I think it'll take training as you like play more and more matches. It'll become.
I think
second
the rendering will do a bit of, like, the lighting will do a lot of that work as well.
The style and visual design is so distinct and so
Yeah.
loud and so like big block colors that, and I love it. I'm a huge fan of
Some
this.
people hate it. It's been really divisive. I love it too.
I think it's
genuinely
I
love
think
it.
it's
Gunmetal
so
Grey.
gorgeous and cool. But sometimes, but like not sometimes, but I've looking at this, it kind of feels like that maybe having the hard to understand and super duper busy UI maybe clashes a little bit too much with that visual design.
Yeah, going for, like, sleek minimalism and then going maximalist in everything else to
it's-
make up for it.
I think a big part of that style is that they are drawing from the 90s game they had. So they've embraced it's this weird,
Right.
cool, like 90s Macintosh fonts and symbols and old
cool.
like iconography. So it's definitely a look. But yeah, I think it'll take some time to learn the language of that look and learn what actually is relevant.
Someone said the gun looks like a super soaker, and now I can't unsee it.
That's true.
I think you know, you've played an hour or two of the game so far, and like my experience with Destiny was that it took 30 hours to feel comfortable
Yes.
being in the game, and you can feel in the gunplay and in the and I haven't played this game, but from Destiny's perspective, and it's what Bungie do really well, is that they establish a sense of place and world around you that you're so interested in finding out more. And even while you're confused as hell, basically constantly, for thousands of hours of gameplay.
Well, that's it, isn't it? They're saying
It's an intrigue that
extraction
keeps you
shooters
there.
and like what Destiny was as a PvE shooter, they are made for people to invest hundreds of hours into.
Yeah.
So they know that they're going to get people who are going to take this on and learn it and master it. So it's like they don't have to handhold as much as maybe another genre of game.
Is any of the storytelling, the narrative beat stuff in here yet? There's no
Yeah.
cutscenes or anything?
There's barely anything. There's
Oh, you've lost me.
Well,
I'm out.
but in the same way that Destiny did it, it's all like there's sort of echoes of it here and there. There's contracts that are basically just ways to do objectives, and they're all locked behind these corporate names that all have a cool symbol, and so it seems like you'll eventually start doing contracts for different companies, and maybe they might be competing, and you'll choose your factions in that sense. Outside of that, there are some very slick opening cutscenes that are just all like abstract imagery and weird words. Nothing there that you can really grasp and understand outside of that you are these synthetics going to these abandoned planets to harvest stuff.
And this is an alpha. I wasn't expecting there to be finished cutscenes or anything like that, but I guess I know that is what's so appealing about Destiny to a lot of people, is that there's a lore that allows them to justify spending the hours that they do repeating content.
And Bungie's shown that they've successfully built the story around the game as it exists. And they, I think, are well and truly going into this with that idea. I mentioned last week that apparently they haven't started writing the story, or at least the story. I'm sure the framework is there, but the people writing the actual cutscenes and characters and all that kind of stuff haven't even started. So I think the priority here is to lock down a really tight game that works, and it does for all intents and purposes. I think we won't get into the conversation for a few more months about until it comes to release about full cost of this, that it is going to be a full-priced game, which is a big ask for a game that feels like, even from the menus and the lack of hub zones and, characters and world, it feels like it should be, it feels anemic, but it's a closed alpha. And so in that sense, it's like, if I was paying $60 for this right now or $80 for this right now, I don't think it would feel right, but I'm sure they're going to build more game around this before release and then even once it's out as well. So, But again, just in terms of getting my hands on it and playing it, I'm going to play as much more as I can during this closed beta period. But I like what I see.